How's it going, everybody? Landon with Truck Boss Show. Thank you so much for joining us on this special segment. I'm honored to be with Rebecca Brewster, who I'm getting to know, who is the president of American Transportation Research Institute, or better known as ATRI. Rebecca, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Hey, Landon, thanks for having me on today.
Oh, you're most welcome. I know you're very busy. I have a lot going on there in Atlanta. I believe that's where you're at. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If you don't mind, for those who are watching right now and don't know, who is ATRI and what's the purpose of your nonprofit?
So ATRI is the trucking industry's not-for-profit research organization, and our primary and only mission, really, Landon, is research to improve the trucking industry's safety and productivity. And so we have since I've been here, and I've now been here 26 years, we've done research on topics as varied as truck parking, hours of service rules, CSA, driver health and wellness, traffic incident management, ways to improve the environment. Essentially, if it has some nexus to trucking, there's a good bet we've done some research on that topic.
How do typical case studies and the research that you put together, how is that put together? How is that executed?
So we have a group that we call a Research Advisory Committee, or RAC, and RAC members come from trucking fleets. They come from trucking industry suppliers. We have driver groups, both OIDA and the Teamsters are represented. We have academics. We have some government folks. It's a very diverse group of trucking industry stakeholders who annually figure out what are the top research priorities for trucking. And once we have that list, and this year we have another list of 6 new topics to work on, we start at the staff level to develop a methodology for that. We figure out how can we get that research done, what data do we need to get that research done. Sometimes it's internal data sets like our truck GPS data. Sometimes we have to go collect new data from drivers or from fleets. And so we'll probably talk a little bit about one of our current driver surveys. But it just depends on the study. So oftentimes it's internal data that we have, but in many cases it's stuff that we have to get from the industry. And so we're very grateful always for the participation of drivers and motor carriers in our research.
And so it's very important that we provide the right information, especially from your organization, to them so they can make those efficient decisions. And so you can see I get a little bit passionate about this topic. When it comes to the information that you put together, other than the states that you're working with to provide that, when it comes to this latest survey, who all takes advantage of this data and what impact does it make?
Well, we have a lot of different audiences, and in fact, when I am interviewing individuals to come to work for ATRI, I emphasize the fact that they need to be able to write and make our findings understandable for everyone, because who gets our reports? Drivers take our report and they go to their state legislators or their federal representatives and say, here, this is not just me, Rebecca Brewster, professional driver, telling you this is what me and all my peers around the country are telling you. It's the collective voice of drivers, or it is the collective voice of trucking companies. A lot of our research makes its way to Congress. As a 501c3 research organization, we can't lobby, and that's not our job. We provide the data to inform public policy. So, for instance, when the hours of service rules had the more restrictive 34-hour restart provisions, we did a lot of research that quantified the impacts of that on drivers and on fleets and on the supply chain. And that research, through everyone sharing it with their elected officials, made it known that those more restrictive provisions were problematic for everyone. And ultimately, those rules were changed. And so that's just one example of how our research informs the public decision. We have our list of the top 100 truck bottlenecks. Well, as states and the federal government are talking about how to fund transportation infrastructure, knowing exactly where the worst choke points are allows transportation decision makers to focus their resources on those most egregious choke points.
Can't thank you enough. And I wish we had more time to talk. I would have 1,000 more questions, but I know you're as busy as all get out, and it's just a big honor to have you a part of our show, giving some insight to American Transportation Research Institute, all that's going on, how drivers, all those in trucking can participate. And again, here at the Truck Boss Show, we thank you, and we're going to do everything we can to be able to assist in your efforts.
That's great. Thank you so much for having me on today, and please invite us back. We'd love to talk about some of our other studies as well.